Welcome back to Gangs All Here, our New York Jets podcast from the New York Post. I'm Jake Brown, alongside, back in the saddle, Brian Costello, Jets beat writer for the New York Post. You can follow us on Twitter at Brian Cos and at Jake Brown Radio. And joining us in just a little bit will be friend of the program, former Jets defensive end, and a great analyst, killing it at CBS and ESPN. That's Leger Douzable. He'll join us in just a bit. Cos, some schematic changes, not here on the Gangs All Here podcast, but maybe for the Jets. It's Bills week, and Michael Carter won't be a part of it. Izzy Abanikanda might. Jeremy Ruckert might. We might see some changes there, but what's your initial thoughts here on Michael Carter? I know there was a thing out there that someone shouted Mike Carter when they were talking to Izzy in his opening remarks on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever it was, but I know the morale, I guess, is down in the locker room without Michael Carter. They loved him. But what do you think of that whole move? I know you were a little bit surprised that they cut him instead of just making him inactive.
Yeah, I thought they would just make him inactive. I knew after Sunday that he was probably going to be, inactive, and they were going to bring Izzy up. But the cut surprised me. I don't, he's a very popular guy, Jake, but I don't think it's going to really have any effect on the locker room in terms of long term. I'm sure they were upset the last few days, but they all know it's a business. And this happens, and they move on. And I think they're all smart guys, and they saw he hasn't really been producing. He played 9 snaps on Sunday against the Raiders, so I don't think anyone can be protesting this move very much. They know what's going on in the locker room, so it's going to be a little bit of a youth movement. Jake, the rookie Izzy is going to be in there. Like you said, Rucker. I think we're going to see Jason Brownlee probably get some run too. Another rookie. So it'll add some speed and athleticism, but rookies also make mistakes, and second-year players make mistakes. So they're like, if you're looking for the penalties to go down, this probably isn't the way to go. Because it just, naturally when you're a younger player, you make more mistakes, even though they've had some from older players lately. I just think that it increases the chances of mistakes on the field when you get younger.
Well, they're trying to clean up those mistakes, and for that, they did a players-only meeting. Do you think there's anything to that? Does that ever do anything? I guess it's good that they did it, and, but does it do anything?
I used to joke that's more popular in baseball than football, really. Baseball is a long season. And when I was around the Yankees, they would do it like before they played the Royals, when the Royals were terrible. And then they'd win the game 8-1 over the Royals. They'd be like, oh my God, the team meeting was like, they've turned the season around. They never did the team meeting when they were against the Red Sox. So I don't think much of team meetings, Jake. I think it's fine. I don't think it really makes much of a difference. So,
well, there's a lot of accountability issues with this team, and I think Robert Saleh is really on the hot seat if they collapse again for back-to-back years. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers, clamoring for him could save him, because these mistakes. I'm sorry, and I know everyone's going to say Zach Wilson was better. He was better, but he still threw a pick in a big spot. Part of that blame goes on Allen Lazard not going after the ball, but he's got Breece Hall open. He's got guys open. He wasn't incredible. He was fine. And I think 11 quarters without a touchdown is unacceptable. And I know they have injuries, and I know the penalties, and I know Nathaniel Hackett has been terrible, but I really still think that this would have been another week to make a change. I know it wasn't going to happen. But at some point, you got to think about it before Rodgers, because Rodgers, the earliest he's coming back is probably December 10th if he does against the Texans. I'd be shocked if it's before that. So they got to find a way these next 3 weeks, Kaz, to at least win one game. They got to be 5-7 going into that Texans game with the hope that he comes back and rattles off 5 in a row, because 9-8 is not getting you the playoffs. I don't think they're going to beat any tiebreaker, and I don't think any 9 wins gets you in. I think you're going to have to get to 10. And I shouldn't even utter Jets in playoffs, because the way this team is playing, they're not a playoff team. But I think you got to win one of these next 3 until Rodgers. And I don't know. I hopefully these schematic changes do it. Like, I'm enough of just like, oh, we got to be better. We got to be better. Someone's got to be held accountable. And I don't think the coach holds anyone accountable.
They just cut Michael Carter. He was held accountable, right? You just talked about benching CJ Uzomah, right? He's been held accountable.
That's a start. It's a start.
I mean, I just think, Jake, they've This was not on Zach on Sunday in Vegas. Yes, he threw an interception. If you watch that play closely, other things happened on that play where the ball was supposed to go somewhere else, and the person didn't run a good route, and he kind of got screwed up there. And like you said, I also think the linebacker made a tremendous play on that play. It was a great play back guy. So, I banged around Zach last week. I was with you last week. Like if I said if he struggled in the first half, make a change. I think Zach had played better on Sunday. I don't think he's the main issue right now. This week, I just
let him sling it. Then they don't let him sling it. Like I'm seeing
throw the ball down the field. What does that mean? What does that mean? A sling it? Like they tried. He got sacked on the one. They tried to go downfield on that one. He got sacked. Like it's. I don't think the plan was bad Sunday. Watching it, I thought they should have scored touchdowns, and they kept committing penalties. And and if Garrett throws that trick play was a good play. If Garrett can get any air on the ball to Lazard, that's a touchdown. Like
could they have someone else throwing it? The guy's got a hurt elbow. Why was he the one throwing?
That wasn't the reason. I mean, he didn't set his feet. I think Garrett was in the game. He was fine. He was okay. Like I think if Garrett sets his feet and throws that ball the way he can, it's a touchdown. Garrett threw it like crazy where he didn't stop running. So I saw Sunday, Jake, was an offense that's close. They kept saying it's close. I think they're close. I think if they don't commit these killer penalties, they score some touchdowns. Now, I'm not saying they're going to score 42 points or anything on Sunday. Don't get me wrong, but I think they can be a competitive offense if they just can cut out the penalties, which might be easier said than done. But to me, they don't have the answer on the roster at quarterback behind him, and you can nail them for that and say they should have had a better backup plan. But Boyle and Simeon are not the answer to this problem.
I almost feel bad for Boyle and Simeon at this point that they're not in, and just the coach basically calling them bums by like saying Zach's our best guy. I mean, you almost feel bad, but I mean that's the roster they put together.
They're making a lot of money, Jake, to go practice football a few times a week and not go play on Sundays. It's like I've always thought, being around the locker room a long time, I always thought the best job on the Jets was being DeBrickashaw's backup, right? You get paid pretty hefty salary. You go out, you got to practice a couple times a week. You're not playing on Sunday. You're not getting hurt. You're going to be able to play with your kids. You're not going to need hip surgery when you're 55 years old. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good life when you're a backup in the NFL.
When you're Zach Wilson's backup, it's a great life because he will get defended till the death of us all. But I agree. I would say backup quarterback's like the best job in sports because they get paid really handsomely. Like look at the career Josh McCown had, and saying look Flynn. I mean Flynn got like a $45 million deal off of a week 17 game where he played well, where the game didn't matter. So it's a hell of a life, and I don't know. I just wish the coach would stop babying these guys. It still doesn't change. I love to see the change.
You're going off press conferences, right? I mean, he's not like that behind the scenes. He's just not a guy who's going to publicly criticize players. And who does? Like, what coach does at this point?
Wink Martindale.
They really that's not something that happens that much. I know everyone wants to harken back to Bill Parcells, but that's 25 years ago at this point. Like it's a different world now in terms of player management, and he's just not going to criticize players publicly.
Yeah, well, listen, they're making changes. I'm glad we'll see Rucker. As much as I liked CJ Uzomah, the signing, and he's a good person, the penalties, you're not going to cut him because he's just different. The contract situation is different than third string Michael Carter. But CJ Uzomah should either be third on the depth chart or be inactive on Sunday. I mean, it's one of those two options, a healthy scratch or make him third. Let's see all Rucker. And, Conklin has played well. And listen, Conklin has become at least a garbage time receiver. He's getting 65 yards plus every week the last 3 weeks. So he's been a big part of the offense. And get Izzy involved. Listen, what have you seen from Izzy? You saw him, in training camp. He's got a lot of speed. I think fans were hoping he'd make the roster. He didn't.
He made the roster. He's been inactive.
Well, inactive, yeah. Well, what did you see from him, and what do you think his role might be on Sunday?
I think he's fast. I haven't seen anything since training camp. Right, we don't get to watch practice during the season, so I haven't seen him do anything since training camp. But obviously, he brings a speed element to the offense, and he's another guy with Garrett and Brees, who, when he gets his hands on the ball, he could take it to the end zone every single time, which the Jets need as many of those guys on the field as they can, because they've shown they're not a team that's going to get 14 play drives for touchdowns. So he's explosive. To me, I think what they'll do is I think Dalvin will slide into the Michael Carter role and be the third down back. And then I think Izzy will take the role that Dalvin had of getting 4 or 5 carries a game, see what he can do. I don't think he's going to have a huge role. But all they need from him is to break one play and the move will pay off. I would be worried about him in passing situations, just because rookies usually are not good at pass protection. They're not asked to do that in college a lot. So they usually struggle with that as rookies. So I wouldn't think that's why I wouldn't think he'd go to the third down role. I think he'd be more the kind of when Brees needs a break running back.
Well, let's see a couple screens to him. Let's see a couple screens to Brees, and simple plays, get rock and rolling, and take some shots down the field. Let me see a play action bomb in the first quarter. Let me see a touchdown in the first quarter. You finally saw field goals. I mean, you were there. You must have been marveling that they scored in the first quarter on their first drive. For the first drive, I thought they were going in, and then Zach had the intentional grounding penalty, and that was kind of started off the night of penalties, and that backed them up, and they can't overcome these penalties, and that's the problem. The numbers of the penalties aren't bad. It's when they're making them and just their inability to overcome them that's accentuating everything. Yeah, the penalties got to stop because it's gotten out of control. What was your Vegas experience like, by the way? Did you play any blackjack?
I didn't. I really just didn't do anything, Jake. It's weird out there right now because they have the Formula One race on this Saturday. So if you think about it, the race is going to be through the city. You have to build pretty big freaking walls in case there's a crash in the race, right? So it's very hard to walk around. The strip is just has these huge walls, and you can't cross the street. You have to use footbridge across the street. So I went for a walk Saturday night, and I was thinking about going to a casino, but it was hard to navigate. It was because it felt very crowded too, because everyone was so condensed in the space. So that Formula One track has really changed the experience. I liked seeing the Sphere. I went, I didn't pay the $170 to go see the show there, but I went and looked at it. It was pretty cool. We'll be back there. Like the Super Bowl's there this year, so I'll have 8 days in Vegas in February. So I can gamble then, I'm sure.
There you go. I was hoping for a couple double downs on 11 and hearing some big epic victory stories. Maybe seeing Aaron Rodgers, who a fan in his jersey saw him and got tapped on the shoulder by Aaron himself walking around. I don't know if you saw that picture.
I saw that. Yeah, not in the casino, probably though. He's
nearby, maybe
not allowed to go in the casino. So
yeah, true. Well, yes, the Sphere is epic. My buddy Amanda was one of the engineers of the Sphere, did a terrific job with that. So I can't wait to see the Sphere, although it might make you a little dizzy. Once the inside of it is a crazy experience. So I'm looking forward to catching a show there. Maybe Celine Dion. Well, actually, no, she can't perform anymore. She had a problem. Adele or someone epic. Usher there would be pretty cool.
When are you going to Vegas?
Well, maybe I'll go Super Bowl week. I don't know. Maybe not the game, but go for the week of shenanigans there. I did ask, our sports editor about credentials for Super Bowl week. But I asked him beginning of the year, I was like, maybe the Jets or Giants are in it. And those opinions have changed. The Giants will be nowhere near.
You picked the Jets did you pick them to win or just go, Jake? I don't remember.
I think I said go. I don't know if I saw a win. I meant go as in being in attendance in the crowd, of course. I didn't mean playing on the field. Well, listen, they win. They win a 1 or 2 here and Aaron comes back. Then anything is open. But I don't know.
Let me give you this, Jake. Like I wrote this today in the post because I think this Aaron decision is going to be fascinating, right? So I was like, oh, if he wants to play, the doctors say, okay, we'll play him. I don't think it's that simple. Here's the scenario I laid out. Let's say they go 3-2 in their next 5, all right, which is maybe a little generous, but could happen. 3-2. They're 7-7. Christmas Eve, Commanders. You figure you got to win the last 3. Let's say you're figuring you got to win 10. Right, to make the playoffs. So they're 7-7, and probably there's 3 teams in front of them for the playoffs. Are you playing Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, if he's ready, yes. I think in that spot when you got Commanders, Browns, Patriots, 3 winnable games, because Zach loses to bad teams. It's not like it's a lock that they'll win those games with Zach. they don't score with Zach. So who tells me they're going to beat a bad team?
I think
Rodgers in there, that's Christmas present. You're
I
feeling
think
like
the
you're going to
problem,
playoff.
Jake, is going to be defining what is in the mix, right? Like he used the word in the mix on McAfee. Like what's in the mix? Because right now they're in 13th place in the AFC, but they're one game behind the Texans, who are in 7th, right? Their last playoff spot. So this reminds me, Jake, of I think you go back this far, but the 2004 trading deadline for the Mets. And they're 6 games back of the wild card, but they're 4 games under 500. Don't really look like a good team if you're being realistic. And they trade Scott Kazmir for Victor Zambrano to make a run. And so it's like, this reminds me of like the baseball trade deadline of like, are you in it? And even like you could argue this year, there was Mets fans who said they shouldn't have traded Scherzer and Verlander, right? They should have just gone for it because mathematically they weren't dead at that point. So like this like you're right. He's 40 years old. Like even if the doctors say yes, he can play. I don't know. I feel like you're still running a pretty big risk. Like he's never, like no one's come back from it in 3 months. Who knows what's going to happen if the risk of re-injury.
Yeah, he'll be 40 on December 2nd, so his birthday is coming up. Yeah, I think I target my earliest is the Texans game, and if they are 5-7 or better, and he's ready, I think he's back. Either the Texans or the Miami game. Miami, it's not, you go down your first game back. You're in potentially great weather in Miami.
Grass field, I think, right?
Grass field. That might be the realistic target. But if they're 5-8, then I don't think you do it. So they got to find a way to win these next couple.
I think the Commanders game is the realistic target. I think Miami and Houston is aggressive. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but he's got to get back here and start practicing. Like they got to open the practice window on him. That's the first step. He said he thinks he's going to be back here next week. Next week's a short week for them with Black Friday. I would think it'd probably be the week after when you'd see him on the practice field leading into that Falcons game. But he hasn't played football in 3 months. So he's going to need a little time to get reacclimated to playing football. And
it seems like Thanksgiving time might be the time. He says he's going to rejoin the team. Maybe that's when he at least gets into practice and starts.
Yeah, I heard it's going to be after Thanksgiving. I just, the way a short week works in the NFL, like they're just going to be going crazy. I don't know if he's going to be back here next week. I got a feeling he's going to be back after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, maybe like the 30th or December 1st.
He'll probably stay. He'll probably come here for Black Friday, then stay and practice the next week, I would think. So,
well, Kaz, my flight gets in like 1 or 2 p.m. next Friday to LaGuardia. If the Jets find a way to beat the Bills, which we'll preview and make our pick here in a second for that game, and the Dolphins find a way to lose this week, that game next Friday is a battle for first place in the AFCs. Dolphins play the Raiders, but listen, the Raiders are playing a little bit better here. It is a battle.
The bubble's about to burst. They're no longer playing the New York teams. The Dolphins are gonna.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins will tear them apart. Yeah, in Miami too. But look, that is the situation. So now we laid it out. That involves a Jets win on Sunday, 4:25, CBS. Jets, Bills, Romo, Nance on the call. The Bills are 7-point favorites, Kaz. Coming to this game, they just fired their offensive coordinator. They lose to the Broncos 24-22 with a very Jetsian-like 12 men on the field penalty after the first field goal misses. Just a disaster. The Broncos messed that up by not just kicking when the clock was stopped. They decided to kind of kneel it and then run on the field. Guys are, heavily breathing, and that, it ends up helping because there's 12 men on the field. They lose. They're scrambled right now. They had 4 turnovers on Monday, Kaz. Josh Allen has been a turnover machine. He's got 11 picks. Jordan Whitehead had 3 versus him in week 1 of that miraculous Jet win where, unfortunately, Rodgers did get hurt. They get good tight end play from Dalton Kincaid, but this is a team that's free-falling, kind of like the Jets here. It's 2 teams in dire need of a win. Break the game down. Make your pick.
Yeah, I think this is a game where the Bills are the better team and desperate versus the Jets desperate. I think this could be a get-right game for the Bills offense. They might get a little bump from having Joe Brady become the offense coordinator. And as much as I saw promising signs in Vegas from the Jets offense, I need to see them score points to truly believe that they're fixed or that they're going to do anything. So I do think Allen's probably due for a better game against the Jets than he's had in the last few. So I will go Bills 24, Jets 13. Jake.
Yeah, I gotta pick the Bills this week. I just think the Jets offense, I know they're saying there's changes, but what confidence am I supposed to have? Oh, you got rid of your third string running back and you're gonna move CJ Uzomah to the third string tight end. Like, those aren't big enough changes to me to think they're gonna win this game. I agree, this is a get right game. I think new offensive coordinator is gonna help. I think they're fired up, that Bills team. They badly want to win because they're a team really actually still in the shot. Still in the running for the division. The Jets are kind of fake in the running for the division. The Bills came into the season as division favorite. So they're looking at this like, yeah, let's get right. Let's win. Jets lose to the Dolphins next week. We got to start winning our games here. All these teams have a tough schedule the rest of the way. I think the week 1 game was in partially an anomaly. I think there was just a weird game and everyone was fired up. The fireworks, the lights, everything. The Jets had a lot going for them that game. Buffalo's home. It'll be a little chilly. It'll be like in the 30s. I think they're going to come after Zach. I'm taking the Bills here 20-13. The Jets make it interesting. Their defense plays well, but again, they fall short. But let's see these schematic changes here. Let's see, a little more Dalvin Cook. Let's see Breece Hall as a receiver. Let's see a little Izzy. Let's see Jeremy Rucker down the field. And, let's see the reverse actually work. Let's see Garrett Wilson try that again, maybe with an arm that's a little bit better.
Because I don't think his arm was good. You love the reverse, Jake. Did you love the reverse until the
it works? I mean, that was a good play. I mean, he was open. Like,
but the reverse early in the game, where Uzomah was called for holding, got 11 yards too, I think. Yeah.
It works every time.
The
Jake Brown playbook works every time. If you don't hold a guy, just stop holding guys.
That's the flag football playbook, Jake. When you're the little kids with flag football, and I coached my son, it was run the reverse because it works every time.
Every time. And Dwayne Brown will be back finally this week, right? He was a full participant. No. Still not?
Yeah, I'm not sure Dwayne Brown will be back this season.
Really? What's going on?
Yeah, he's just not getting better, I don't think. So
isn't he practicing though?
He's practicing, but different than practicing and playing. They have until Thanksgiving to activate him.
How are you a full participant in practice but not ready to play? That's fascinating to me.
Because practice, there's no real contact. Like you're hitting a little bit, but not much.
So who's playing right guard then?
Xavier Newman.
Newman will be there. Okay.
Same
Mitchell was great against Crosby. I thought Max Mitchell was fantastic against Crosby. So that was
those are
plus.
Strong words. I thought he was good.
No sacks.
There was a few. It should have been a sack on the intentional grounding, right?
Yeah.
And but no, he played very well against Max Crosby, very well. And so I think you'll have the same offensive line for the first time consecutive weeks since the Broncos game. So
maybe that helps. Maybe some cohesion on that old line, and
because the Bills have a good defensive line. They got some issues behind the defensive line. No Matt Milano, I think, is huge for them.
And we want to talk about changes like the Zach run for nearly the touchdown. I wish his foot wasn't out because who would have thought there'd be holding and they wouldn't end up scoring. Like, design run. Me and you have asked for it. Like, add that to the playbook this week. We saw Zach use his legs in impromptu fashion. Let's see a promptu run. How about that?
Yeah, I'm with you. I would do a little zone read, something with Zach. I think he can do it. They've done it before. They did it his rookie year, I remember a 2-point conversion. They did it now down near the goal line. But yeah, I think you could do that with Zach.
I might have just made up the word promptu.
I think you did. I think you did.
That's the Jake Brown School of Dictionary.
That's some shirt you have on today.
Yeah, it is a thrift shop find. I love Buffalo Exchange, a thrift shop, and I don't know if it was like a Chinese symbol or something. I don't know what it was, but it was.
Yeah, what is that? Chinese? Funky. Is it Native American? What's going on?
I don't know, but I look ready for Vegas, and this is like a Vegas like blackjack kind of shirt. It's like a card. It's kind of like a little card. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I gotta go to Vegas Super Bowl. So get it right, Jets. Bring back Rodgers, and we'll talk about all that coming up next here with former Jet Leger Douzable right here on Gangs All Here. Gangs All Here podcast. Jake Brown, Brian Costello joined now for the first time this season, but friend of the program. You knew this guy was going to be a star when he took the time to do the show while getting his tires fixed at his local tire shop. He was literally behind like a bunch of 20-inch rims doing the Gangs All Here podcast. But now he's blown up to the point where there's an Emmy Award behind him. It's Emmy Award winning analyst, CBS Sports HQ, ESPN college football analyst. Will be on the call this weekend for the UAB game, Sirius XM host, and a former Jets linebacker from 2013 to 2015, Leger Douzable. Leger, how does that sound? Emmy Award winner, having that trophy. You can do it like one of these with the trophy. Like, it must feel good.
Yeah, it's a blessing. I did play some linebacker, but mostly D line.
I was gonna say, Jake,
defensive end.
I was like, did they list him as a linebacker in the 3-4 maybe? Like, I don't think so.
At some point, you did.
You know, with Rex, man, we always lined up all over the place. And also with good Lord, Bowles. I don't know why I had a brain fart for a second. So I did play some outside linebacker.
Yeah, he's a D lineman.
D lineman,
yeah. D lineman, Jake.
You do it all. Listen, I was trying to give you some versatility there, putting you in a position that you're not as comfortable with. Well, you were on a Jets defense that watched a Jets offense score points back in 2015 with Fitzmagic. Yeah. Not the same this year. 11 straight quarters, Leger, without a touchdown. You as a defensive player, on the other side, got to be frustrating to watch. What have you seen from this offense, or I guess what have you not seen from this offense? Because it's been a tough watch these last 3 weeks, and really all year it's been brutal.
I would say it's been a combination of execution and sometimes lack of mental focus when you talk about this offense. I think Zach said it perfectly in this press conference after the game. It's like every time there's a good play that happens, it gets called back, right? And Kaz, you've covered this game for a long time. You can't build any continuity if you keep shooting yourself in the foot, right? Self-inflicting wounds, it hurts your offense. Because on offense, you need plays, man, to really get in a rhythm. And the Jets just have not had plays, right? So that's the biggest issue. And you heard Robert Saleh after the game and speak on Monday saying that there, could potentially be some, personnel changes. And we saw Michael Carter ends up getting released. I think Izzy Abanikanda, hopefully he can, ignite some of this offense with his speed. We saw him look really good in the preseason. I thought he always was a perfect fit for this zone scheme offense with Nathaniel Hackett. So it'd be interesting to see how they use his skill set. I think he's a guy, I know Gibson's a heck of a returner, but I would put Izzy Abanikanda on kick return. I think he's perfect for that role as far as just getting downhill, using that speed. And people forget, Cause this is a bigger back. Even though he ran like 4.4, this is a bigger back. Like guys usually just, fly off of him because of the speed and his size. So I think the kick return role will be good. I think he should get 1 or 2 screens a game and also give him 2 or 3 carries in that stretch or zone scheme. And this guy can literally hit his head on the goalpost if you block it up right. So I think Jeremy Rucker's another guy. I think Robert Saleh mentioned. I saw this trend happening, right? We saw week in and week out Jeremy Rucker make plays. Now, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, he had a bad false start penalty in the red zone that cost the Jets potentially some points there. But other than that, man, this dude, as far as catching the ball, blocking, you can see him ascending as a young player. So when it comes down to the offense, it's just execution, man. I know people will come at Nathaniel Hackett, but it's like you're in the red zone, right? And you get 2 penalties near the goal line. And one play, Zach Wilson actually steps out of bounds on a great run by him. And then CJ Uzomah gets a hold. And then you really put yourself behind the 8 ball, behind the chains. Like, for you to score points, you have to execute. Like, you can't get in the red zone. I think we need to be a little bit more aggressive in the red zone. That's Zach included. Seems like between the 20s, he lets it go. But, like, in that red zone, I think he's so terrified of turning the football over. He's got to have that same mindset he had in the Kansas City game where, like, I don't care. I'm just letting it go, right? Let the chips fall where they may, because people are going to say what they say anyway. So go out there and just cut it loose, man. I mean, literally, a lot of people don't believe you can win this Bills game. The Jets have always given the Bills issues. Go out there and cut it loose. Go play just like you did in the Kansas City game.
Leger, were you ever on a team where the defense was really, really good and the offense was really, really bad? Jake mentioned 2015, which was a very balanced team. Yeah. I can't remember because I think you came.
I would say maybe the 13 year.
13 you were there. Yeah. Okay. Like, what does resentment build at all? Where like you're like, because I kind of walk in after every game going, is this the week where someone pops off? Because before, I think 2012 was the year before you got the Jets.
Yeah.
They popped off. The defense finally went off on Sanchez after a game in Tennessee where Cromartie was yelling and Calvin Pace was yelling. And it was a tense locker room. And I'm kind of like, how long can this hold before this defense is like, dude, giving up freaking 16 points and we can't win the game. Like, just from your player perspective, did you ever kind of feel that?
Yeah, I think frustration more than anything sets in, because if you've been in this game for a while, right, you kind of know it's not just about the players. It's the sum of everything, right? It comes down from play calling, execution. So you yelling at a certain person on offense, it may not just be their fault, right? Sometimes it's not just now. In certain situations, yes, it could be the quarterback's fault. Yes, if a guy continues to mess up, and I think that's why Saleh said there will be some personnel changes, because I think you have to send that message no matter what a guy is making on the team. There's no way you can continue to go out there and mess up and cost the team wins and continue to play. I don't give a damn what you're making. Like that should not be the be all end all because you're making a certain amount of money. We saw it in Tennessee, right? Andre Dillard, they paid him in the offseason. He wasn't playing good. They benched him. Like, you have to do that in certain scenarios. It'll be interesting to see how the group comes out on offense this week, because Saleh said there will be more changes besides Michael Carter. So I'm interested to see what those changes will be personnel wise. So I think more than anything, cause is frustration sets in. I can't remember a time in that 13-year where I was just ready to snap on the offense, because I knew it was bigger than just Geno or certain players on the offense, because, certain situations, like sometimes you didn't have the tools on offense, right? And, Rex was always beating the table like, we need a number one receiver. And you can blame the quarterback all you want. If they don't have a true guy that they can depend on, and Zach has that in Garrett Wilson for sure. It's not the same scenario at all.
No. And Zach's a third-year quarterback. Geno,
exactly.
yeah,
and Geno was young as well too. He was a rookie. So I think that year, like on defense, we kind of knew we had to hold guys to like 14 or 15 if we wanted to win games.
Yeah, you mentioned Saleh, you mentioned Wilson. I mean, I don't know if he's looking for a role in La La Land too, as Ryan Gosling. With this, Zach is playing pretty good. I mean, legit, come on. I mean, I know it's hard to make a QB change when your backups are Boyle and Simeon, but it shouldn't have been considered at this point. Like, I thought this might have been the week to do it. You don't even consider it?
Let's have a heart-to-heart.
Right.
If you thought that the reason why the Jets lost to the Raiders was Zach Wilson's fault, you didn't watch film.
I'm not saying that one game. I'm just saying over the course of the season,
he played pretty well Sunday, Jake.
Literally. That's what I'm saying.
That was Sunday was his second best game to me after the Chiefs.
That's what I'm saying. If you think the reason why they lost Sunday was Zach Wilson, you didn't watch the film. It was not Zach Wilson at all. And even if you go to the Chargers game, yes, he took a couple sacks, but if you go look at the film, a lot of times guys were not open, right? And that wasn't a good defense. And there was lack of execution. There was drop passes. I believe there was like 4 or 5 drop passes. And even Garrett Wilson had some drop passes on back-to-back Sundays. So, like, if you look at the whole, like, I know Robert Saleh, right? He's not going to throw anybody under the bus. But if you've looked at Trevor Siemian and Nick Boyle's careers, like, do you think them coming in would make a difference right now? It comes down to the execution on offense. Like, the plays are there to be made. Guys are dropping passes. Guys are getting unexcusable penalties in the worst possible time. Like, and they had a players meeting, but that's what should have been the first thing talked about: accountability, right? Accountability in that locker room. When you go out there, you're supposed to do your job. I mean, perfect example on that end around play. CJ Uzomah has a hold on a D tackle. That defensive tackle is not even going to come close to making that play. There was no reason to hold him. The one on the goal line with Max Crosby, maybe 50-50, but like, I trust Breece Hall running downhill. That would have been maybe an arm tackle from Max Crosby. There was no reason to tackle that dude like that. So that's not on Zach Wilson. That's on execution. And again, having penalties at the worst possible time. So when I look at it, and I'm not one of those Zach Wilson truthers. Yes, he needs to play better, but I thought he played really well Sunday. And I would say, besides that Patriots game, I don't think Zach has been the reason why they've lost these games.
Eight fumbles in 5 games. The pick last week, he had
if you're getting sacked from behind unabated, like what are you supposed to do? Like, defensive linemen, we're taught to do that in games, right? And now, again, you would like for your quarterback to hold on the ball, but if he's getting blind, like the one with Becton on Sunday, that was blindside. Zach didn't see that dude coming. Like, and Becton got beat quick. I know that's a play Becton would love to have back, because besides that play, he played really well in that game. Actually, the O-line actually played really well Sunday besides that one Becton play. I would say that might have been one of the best offensive line games they've had this season. And if you're Zach Wilson, that's the blind side. Like, you don't see that. We're taught to tomahawk the ball. Like, that's not on Zach Wilson.
Yeah, and one of those fumbles was a bad snap. One of those
Yeah,
fumbles was a
exactly.
bad pitch to Brees, where like it's.
But no, on that, guys, if you look at Brees's eyes, he didn't look the ball
He
in.
didn't look the ball in, right? But I think that
so
fumble,
Zach,
I
that's
believe
not
that
on Zach
fumble gets
Wilson.
credited to Zach. So yeah, I don't think the fumbles are a huge issue. I after the Chargers game, I was more down on Zach than this week. I thought he came back and played pretty well. Like, Jake, I said, if he didn't play well the first half of the Raiders game, I would have thought about putting someone in the second half just to spark something. But I don't think they didn't need to do it. He was playing well. And then when I watched the film, I was like, wow, this is probably the best I've seen him play other than Kansas City.
Kansas City, for sure.
Yeah. And even, Hackett took a lot of grief. And watching
that was my
Hackett,
thing, Cos. I think when he played so well in the beginning, I think they started being too conservative. I mean, like, Zach's a streaky player, just like the Kansas City game. When he's got it going, you got to let him go. Like, they started getting way too conservative in that game.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if how scripted Hackett is, because there's some of the stuff I watch and I'm like, he doesn't respond to what's going on in the field. Because like this, the one that drove me crazy in this game, Dalvin Cook. All of a sudden, I saw Dalvin Cook. I saw the guy that was in Minnesota.
He should have played way more.
I was not supportive of signing Dalvin Cook. I didn't think it was a good move.
Me either.
But he gets 9 yards. He gets 10 yards. He gets 9 yards. He gets stopped for a no gain. And then they don't go back to him the rest of the game.
They don't play him the rest of the game. It's crazy.
In the second quarter. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? Like, ride the hot hand. Like, Brees is great. But if this guy, all of a sudden, this guy looks pissed off and he's running like that, give him the freaking ball.
You got to give him the ball. See, and that's the thing. That's why I try to tell everybody, like, when it comes to play calling, there's an ebbs and flow to the game. And it's a real art to call games, right? Because it's a feeling. You have to feel how the game is playing. You'll know pretty quick in the first 15, 20 plays, all right, this is the type of game it's going to be. It's going to be a muddy, beat 'em up, 3 yards in a cloud of smoke game. Yeah. Or, we can attack them down the field. Like, pretty soon. Yep. And then you just adjust off of that. It's a feel for the game. And I just felt like Sunday night, we didn't have a feel for the game on offense because, like I said, Zach was attacking them down the field right away. That would have, and it opened up the game too, because you could tell the Raiders' game plan was we're gonna stack the box when Brees is in there, but when Cook is in there, we feel like we can stop the run with just 6 or 7 in the box. And Cook was blitzing them, like he was, like you said, cost 9 yards, 8 yards, 10 yards, and I'm like, dude, get him in. Like, he's running with purpose. You could tell he was getting up, fired up. You got to ride that hot hand, right? And then that's when they should have started putting Brees more on third down. But see, there's an ebbs and flow that you have to understand of the game.
Yeah. My thought is just 11 quarters without a touchdown. Like, I agree he wasn't terrible Sunday, of course. But, like, just like you said, God, to spark something, I think it's more on the roster management that their backups are who they are. Do you think they should have traded for Josh Dobbs?
Come on, you can't ask that question on November 16th.
Jake. Exactly.
He looks pretty good.
Well, yeah, he looks good now. Ask him.
My thing is, if they go beat the Raiders, are you asking that question?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If CJ Uzomah doesn't get those 2 bad penalties and they score a touchdown there, are you asking that question? You know what I'm saying? So is that on the quarterback position or is that on execution? Like I said again.
Yeah, well, CJ Uzomah is going to be 3rd on the depth chart potentially this week. It's Jeremy Rucker time.
I mean, we knew that was coming down the pike. It's been happening for a while.
Leger, I have a question about penalties for you, right? So penalties, you hear from, they're on discipline. They're on discipline. They're on discipline. On the coaches hate that so much, right? Every coach I've covered hates it when you write, like, on discipline, reflect on the coaches. How much do you think penalty problems are on coaches versus players just gotta, play better?
Well, I mean, you got to take this in totality, Cos. If you go back, trying to think, was it the Eagles game? Not the Giants game. Like, that was undisciplined by the Jets.
Right. The personal fouls.
Yeah. So that's but when you're talking about last week versus the Raiders, that's holding. Those are movement penalties. Pre-snap, that's a lack of focus. Right. That's on the player's mental toughness. That's not on the coach. You can't put that on the coach. Now, like, if a guy continues to get personal fouls, that's on the coach for allowing that to happen, for keeping them out there. But that hasn't been the case. That literally was one drive for the Jets defense, and it didn't happen for the rest of the game. Right. So to me, that's not a sign of, teams being undisciplined, because it literally happened in one drive. It was just a costly drive because they ended up scoring on that drive. But besides that, that has not been an issue for the Jets. Like, the late hits that we normally see from the Jets, that really hasn't happened. Now, again, they call the game, so so
Yeah,
iffy these days in regards to that.
JFM had a questionable one in Dallas on the goal.
Yeah,
I also
which
think
was not roughing the
not
passer. It was disgusting that was a call, and it led to a touchdown, which really changed the trajectory of the game. Because let's not forget, I believe the Jets had scored with Garrett Wilson the play before that, and before that personal foul, they got off the field. Yeah, they got off the field, and they got another penalty. So that was a suspect call.
Yeah, and I think too the way Robert Saleh preaches defense, right? He says fast, violent.
Correct.
Sometimes those penalties are going to happen. It's the cost of doing business where a guy's going to hit a guy a second after the whistle or lower his head, and it's going to happen. But yeah, I think the penalty thing, it's funny because I did a deep dive this week in my Post Plus newsletter on the penalties, and I went back and looked at all of them, the numbers compared, and like the numbers aren't that bad. They're kind of in the middle of the league penalty wise, but it's just they commit them at the worst times,
That's what
and they're not good enough to overcome them.
Correct.
So it just feels like they get so accentuated because 2nd and 15 feels like a death sentence in this offense. Where
I just saw a crazy stat. I was doing some research for going into the studio for CBS today, and I was looking at a stat. The Jets on 3rd down 3 or fewer are only converting 25%.
Yeah.
Do you know what the number is when it's 4-6?
No.
They're converting 44% of the time, which is actually really good 3rd down offense.
Yeah.
Which makes you think like, all right, maybe we need to stay in 3rd and 5 instead of 3rd and 3 because their short yardage offense has been bad this year. And when it's 7+, I believe Costa goes down to like 14%. So it's like almost impossible.
Yeah.
But that 4 to 6 range, I would love to look that up and see where that ranks among the league. Like I think that would be at least middle of the pack, maybe even better. So I thought that was astronomical. And I'm like, dang, they convert. And you got to think about a lot of times Garrett Wilson on a couple of those slants converts on 3rd and like 5 to 6. Conklin down the middle or spot routes. So I'm like, that's where they need to live. That 3rd and 3 offense is just and most teams love to live in that, right? Because the playbook is wide open. You can run it, you can throw it. For some reason, the Jets just do not execute on 3rd and short. Give me 3rd and 5 all day. We can execute on 3rd and short. It's been tough for them to execute.
All right. 1st down, run 3 yards. 2nd down, run 3 yards. 3rd down, screen to Breece Hall. There you go. Boom. First down.
There it is.
They got to get him outside almost every play. Like he is explosive outside. And with the struggles the run game is having, screens, make Breece Hall, put him in the slot. Like they got to make Breece Hall a receiver.
I think you'll see a little bit more of that this week, right? With Michael Carter not being in on 3rd down because he was like the exclusive 3rd down back. Like I was surprised they weren't putting Breece in there more on 3rd down. So sorry, I thought somebody was in front of my house.
I think it's going to be Dalvin on 3rd down.
I think it's going to be Breece. I think because of how Dalvin ran last week, I would not be surprised to see Dalvin take a little bit more on 1st and 2nd down.
Yeah, I think the rookie they'll be afraid to have in on.
No, they're not going to put him in
because he can't block. He can't block.
Protection. I don't know if they trust him in the protections yet.
So I think Dalvin will be thrown. I think they have some reservations about Breece as a route runner. I've heard that.
Really? Yeah. I wouldn't think that. I mean, he literally took a check down 50 yards the other day.
Yeah, but a check down. I just think like the idea of like saying put him in the slot and stuff. I don't think he's.
Well, no. I think you keep him in the backfield and run him on angle routes.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, and I think I think he could have more of a 3rd down role, but I think Dalvin's going to get a big chunk of what Carter was getting.
It'll be interesting to see.
I still lose sleep on the interception. Breece was wide open right there. If Zach just did a little flip, that's either a first or a touchdown.
I mean,
and it's a different.
Also, receivers got to work back to the ball there. I'm not saying that was Lazard's fault, but if he just works back to the ball, because it was a fingertip interception.
He didn't go after it. You're right. He kind of just stood back and was waiting for it to come.
But you got to work back to the ball.
He plays small for such a big guy, Lazard.
Mm-hmm. Those are your words, not mine.
He's a big dude. He's a big dude, but he doesn't really play like
he was supposed to be the big red zone threat. Like that's why essentially why they brought him in. And like I said, besides that Kansas City game, and again, I know he's been banged up, but this is the NFL, man. If you're out there, you're healthy, right? If you're not, then you need to sit down because you're hindering the team right now.
Yeah, he's not playing like a $44 million guy that got the big contract.
Man. Sometimes I don't care what you're making. If you continue to hurt the team, like they gotta start taking reps away from you.
We haven't addressed the elephant in the room, the bong in the room, whatever it is. Aaron Rodgers, whatever that was on the field that spilled over, bottle of tequila. I don't know what it was.
That was funny.
That was great. When does he come back? Because every interview with Pat McAfee. Oh, this week. Oh, okay. By Thanksgiving, I'm going to be full time with the team. If they lose to me the next 2 games, I don't think you should put him near the football field. What do you think? Do you bring him back if you're 4-7? 5-8. What do you do with Aaron Rodgers?
I mean, Aaron Rodgers has pulled the rabbit out the hat for Green Bay before and won like 4 or 5 straight to get to the playoffs. But I mean, I think it's a tall task to say he's going to be back by Black Friday. I mean, I don't know if you noticed this, Cons. He didn't throw last week, right? To me, is that, was that a built-in rest day, or was there maybe a setback, or he needs some extra rest? Because I mean, what he was doing was unheard of as far as being like 2 months away from Achilles surgery and out there throwing and taking some drop steps. You usually don't see that soon, right? Dudes usually still on them little scooters 2 months out of Achilles injury. So I thought it was something to be said that he didn't throw last week because he's been throwing every single week. So again, I don't know if that's a built-in rest day. I don't know what he did throughout the week.
I think it might have been the Vegas hangover, honestly. With the Sunday in Vegas, long night with Devontae. I think that might have been related.
I mean, Devontae probably had to be at the team hotel, so he went out all night. So yeah, I thought it was interesting. So I mean, we'll see. Like you said, Jake, they have to be in contention for him to even consider coming back. I think this is going to be an interesting game this week, just because we know the changes the Bills have had. We know this Jets defense gives Josh Allen nightmares. And if he turns the football over, I believe twice, his record is like 9-15 in regards to winning games. So this is going to be an interesting game, right? Just because the morale, I would say, is probably lower for the Bills than it is the Jets, which is weird to say, just because there was expectations that even though, the East was getting better with Rodgers and Tua in Miami, that this was still the Bills, division. And it just has not been like that this year. And, usually them being in Buffalo is always like a home field advantage, but it hasn't really been like that this year. Teams have come down to the wire. The Bucs game came down to the wire. Denver actually won there just last week. So this is a scenario where the Jets usually always hold Josh Allen to like right at 200 yards passing in this game. So it's going to come down to the offense making plays. And this defense the Bills defense has been really hurt with injuries on that side of the football, but they're still playing pretty good football on that side. So the offense is going to, they had the players only meeting. We'll see if that gives the offense a spark this week.
So are you taking the Jets?
I'm taking them to cover. It's 7 points. I think it's going to be way closer. I think the under is going to hit on this cost too. I would not be surprised if this is like a 17-13 game.
All right. We'll see how it plays. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be a low-scoring game. We'll see how it plays out. Leger Douzable, follow him on Twitter at Leger Douzable, former Jets defensive end, that is, CBS Sports HQ analyst, ESPN College Football, Sirius XM. Leger, let's hope the Jets turn this around and at least make December interesting, because last December was pretty rough. Thanks for coming on the show.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
All righty. Great stuff there from Leger Douzable. I think me and him were ready to throw hands at one point. Listen, Zach Wilson's not why they lost Sunday, but the mistakes, the inability to score, you're just throwing out the same product every week. In my mind, switch it up. Let's just see. Listen, Boyle could be terrible for a game and you don't score again. And then you go back to Zach. Fine. But I just want to see something different. And I'm rooting for Zach to do well. I want this team to make the playoffs. I still think they win a few here coming up. Aaron comes back, they make it. I think if Zach is the quarterback the rest of the season, there is almost no shot they make the playoffs. But I think the hope of the next few, you could scratch a win or two out and Aaron comes back. Then that's an exciting thought. And it might be one that teases us, reels us in for no reason. But we got to keep this interesting here. It's not even Thanksgiving. They got to keep this interesting. This can't be a season that is over by Thanksgiving. So shock us all, beat the Bills. And then that Black Friday game is very, very intriguing. Like I said, I fly in that afternoon, so I'm probably going to not be able to make it, but I'm going to get home just in time to watch, and we'll have a show after that. We'll have a show drop Monday morning after this Buffalo game. We'll record late Sunday night. As that says, adios to episode 163 of Gangs All Here, a Jets podcast from the New York Post. Thanks to Andrew Hartsfield for producing the show, as well as the intern Mason Radicchio. Catch up on all episodes you may have missed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Amazon, wherever you get podcasts. Just search for Gangs All Here, and you can watch us right now if you subscribe to that New York Post Sports YouTube page. It's free. Why not? Subscribe, find that Gangs All Here playlist, follow it, and you can watch full episodes and clips there. Give us a thumbs up below. Comment below. What are your predictions for Jets Bills on Sunday? Finally, a day game. It's always at night. I like the 4 o'clock is nice. So looking forward to that. Follow me on Twitter, Jake Brown Radio. Follow Brian Costello at Brian Kosh. Just win. Just keep this thing. If you're 4-6, this thing could get ugly because I don't know. Miami coming here, that could end up being a blowout. This is a game you can win because you've beaten them before. You know what it takes to beat the Bills, and the Bills are real in here. So we'll see what their new offense coordinator. This is a game you can possibly pull off in Buffalo. Well, enjoy the game, everybody. For Brian Costello, I'm Jake Brown. Thanks for listening to Gangs All Here. Enjoy Jets Bills. We'll talk to you first thing Monday morning. Peace.